I have the distinct pleasure today of getting to talk today with some people I've grown very close with through my work at Justice Through Code over the last couple years. So again, welcome Makita, Tyler, Maria, and Austin. Would love to start out, we've heard a lot today about kind of the business impact of second chance employment, but we know at the core of this is really the human impact, right? And so I'd really love to start with both Makita and Maria, who are graduates of the program, to hear more about, what was it like for you, your experience in Justice Through Code, what did it mean to you, and especially what did it mean to you to be given that chance for second chance employment? Makita.
Thank you all for having me today. It's really hard to express how much my experience with Justice Through Code has meant to me, to my family, to my community, and really, even as I was exploring the pathway, it never felt real. And for it to be real at this point is just a dream come true for not only myself, but for my community, for my daughter, and for my grandson's future even. When I was released from prison in 2018, I really didn't know what the future held for me. I got a degree while I was inside, but when I started the job search, it was like no one wanted to give me an opportunity, no one. And I wasn't someone who didn't have experience. In fact, I wasn't someone who even ever imagined like my life would lead me to prison, like I had a job, I had a career. I worked as a legal assistant for the Department of Buildings for 8 years prior to my incarceration. And so I had some skills, and now I had a degree. And still, when I came home with all those things under my belt, when I went to do job interviews, folk would just deny me as soon as they found out that I had a criminal conviction. And it would go as far as me getting to the point of getting a job, and they would be like, okay, I'm sorry, we cannot give you this job any longer because of your criminal conviction. So when I finally did land, I was making minimum wage, and it was hard because I had a daughter. At the time, my daughter was pregnant. I had my mom who was struggling, working as a and I didn't know how I was going to help my family, how I was going to help myself. I was making $15 an hour, and I was barely surviving. Like I felt like, if you had a $30,000 job before I went in, you could live a bit. But when I came home, I couldn't even buy a McDonald's meal $5 anymore. So I was struggling, and I said to myself, like, no one wants to give me an opportunity. Thank you. No one wants to give me an opportunity. Like, what do you do? You know. So when I stumbled upon the opportunity to learn coding, the thing that drew me in was a pathway to a better future, and an employment opportunity that was gonna be able to sustain my family. And once I got in, I was like, oh my God, I really love this, and I really can do this. And I tried it, and I got accepted into the program, and it changed my life. It planted a seed for my whole entire life. Like I can't even explain like the effect of this program. I started as a person who just completed a 9.5 year sentence as a first time offender, and now I'm a software engineer. And to my family, to my community, thank you. Thank you so much. To my family and community, that means the world because even before, you know, having a criminal conviction, I remember one time someone said to me, we don't see anybody saying, I'm going to be a pilot in our communities because we don't see that. And we don't see software engineers. We don't believe that we can be the things that we can actually be. And this program actually made that come true. And now there's so many people that see my situation and see where this program has brought me, and they say, I believe that I can be something. And I can never, ever be more grateful to any situation than I am to Justice Through Code.
My experience with Justice Through Code, I found out about Justice Through Code maybe in 2018, 2019, when I was attending California State University Northridge, and I was part of Project Rebound there. And so they sent me this information because I was the only computer science major there, right? So I reached out and I was like, "Hey, can I join? You guys can set me up on Zoom. I'll be there, right?" But it was like, "Oh no, we're not doing Zoom, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, cool, cool." But I wanted to meet other individuals like myself, right, with similar backgrounds, pursuing, like, interested in coding, interested in, because with Project Rebound, majority of everyone is either Chicano studies, social work, which is cool, but no one was computer science, right? No one was engineering. And when I found out about this program, I was like, I got to get in. I got to get in and meet other individuals like myself. So when the pandemic hit, who was the first one to apply? Because it all went Zoom, right? It all went virtual. And just being able to network with Aiden, Makita, other individuals like myself, networking with like Emergent Works. I did their program as well, Next Chapter. And after graduating, I was able to start like a little cohort with Homeboy Industries and Project Rebound, where I teach formerly incarcerated people the basics of JavaScript, so they have that to pass that Hack Reactor exam for Next Chapter. And I'm so grateful for Aiden and other individuals that made this pathway, right? And giving back is something like I love to do, right? And so now, based on that, now I'm applying to MBA programs because I want to be a manager. I don't want to be just a software engineer. I want to go, if I can get to an executive level, they'll watch me. But that's with the help of this program.
Right.
Thank you. To Tyler and Austin, you've been two of our longest supporters of the program. Austin, through your time as an executive MBA student at the business school, and Tyler, through your work at Amazon Web Services. I'd love to hear more about, kind of starting with Austin, your motivation for getting involved in the work that we're doing.
Yeah, thank you. First, it's an honor to be back here as an alumni. Every business school student sort of imagines like what it would be like when they can come back as an alum. I'm sure that there are MBAs in the audience who have thought similar things, and it's a real privilege that this is the circumstance. So thank you, Aiden. I was really primed for it. I took a sequence of classes at Columbia called REAP, the Reentry Acceleration Program, starting with a half block week, 3 or 2.5 intensive days on the background of the role of business and the crisis of mass incarceration. And coming into that, I had done as many had done in the years since the beginning of the pandemic. I'm a 2022 alum, so this is still pretty recent for me. And in the call for social change from the Black Lives Matter movement and others, really examining my own role and the change that I wanted to see. And so coming into it, I knew, I was in an executive MBA program in a classroom at Columbia. The class sort of started with like, if you're here, you've already succeeded in your life. You've already been there. And the demand from that class, and then the subsequent course, which is an immersive program in which I played the role of a mentor to about 12 JTC students, really highlighted for me, like, this is an area where I could make an impact. It's a big world. I'm only one person. I lead a small company, about 80 people, but there are things that we can do that really will make a difference, at our own scale. And since then, and probably my enduring commitment to this movement is in helping other people like me kind of learn what it's like to come back. I developed a simulation program that maybe some of you have seen in one way or the other, that guides you in a sort of a computer game, like horrible Kafka-esque computer game of of what it's like to return from incarceration.
Tyler?
Yeah, for me, it was personal. I've known people that have been impacted by incarceration and how opportunity stops, and they can't progress past that. And I've seen recidivism, I've seen substance abuse, and a lot of this from self-worth and not feeling like you're contributing or can contribute. And so the reason I focus on Justice Through Code is I get to invest my time in my service work helping others, changing their lives, and kind of opening some doors. I also have a loud voice where I work, and I can coalesce, and I can advocate, and I can promote for others to help get engaged. And early on, that was something that we focused on. We've had, I guess, over 30 mentors now from Amazon Web Services on the Justice Through Code program. Some of them repeat mentors. And everybody leaves that program, being a mentor, talking about how they have changed and how they see life differently and people differently, and they become advocates. And to see that continuation of change through not just the mentees, but also the mentors, it's really fulfilling.
And this is for Makita. You know, Austin was talking about his experience at Columbia Business School. We talk a lot about kind of our responsibility to the community. As a lifelong resident of New York City, what did it mean to you to be able to be accepted at a program at Columbia University, both from a personal aspect, but also getting access to the business networks and professional networks to have that support?
Well, it meant the world to me because I never dreamed of ever being a student at Columbia University. Like, Columbia University is this prestigious school that is for someone else, not for people like me, not for people who come from where I come from. Like, if someone was going to college, like where I'm from, and which is Queens, New York, you hear I'm going to BMCC, I'm going to Queensboro. You don't hear I'm going to Columbia University. And I feel like that's because we don't feel we belong there. So having that opportunity was just like me, like I made it. I am walking the grounds of Columbia University, and honestly, like the support and just the name itself, right? I feel like once people hear Columbia, it's like, oh my goodness, you went to Columbia? And it's like, yes, I did. I did. And I belong at Columbia. So it really was a dream being realized, because I really just could not believe it, to be honest with you. Like, when I saw the program, I said I would give it a shot because I wanted an opportunity. But then when I thought about my chances and maybe, just coming out of prison and not feeling very good about myself, not feeling very confident because of my experiences leading up to going to Columbia. Like I said, I tried to apply for many jobs, and at the point of being hired, once they found out about my criminal conviction, they let me down. So I got used to being let down. I would still make the effort, but I was prepared to be let down. So once I did get into Columbia, it was like surreal to me. And then the networks there, I've had the opportunity to meet with amazing mentors who have shaped my life. And not only that, just being pointed in directions that have changed my life forever. I've went from Columbia, I got paired up with Emergent Works, which is a phenomenal program as well. And the mentors there, if I didn't have the mentors that I had at Columbia, Emergent Works, I wouldn't be where I am today. I was coming out of prison from doing a 9.5-year sentence. I hadn't even been around a computer. So I needed that extra support. And the folks that were coming out of Columbia, they were so passionate. And the folks that were coming out of Emergent Works, so passionate, so like, you don't think you have this, but we believe in you. And that was the driving force for me to be where I am today. So I feel like I owe everything that I am right now to this program and my experience at Columbia.
Thank you. Maria, Makita was talking a lot about kind of this sense of community, right, and what that means. You're mentioning the work with Next Chapter or Emergent Works, kind of this overall, space really where people can feel safe, right? So, and I'd love to hear more about kind of what it means to you to have that safe space and that community, especially that's focused, again, in this targeted way, right, on people that are either formerly incarcerated or have a criminal record for second chance employment.
Yeah, the community is very important because when I started my educational journey, I felt like I had branded ex-con on my forehead, and like, I was out incarcerated for 6 years, and just finding like first I found Project Rebound, and it was through a posting that they had for at California State University, Los Angeles, where they were asking people, like students, to see if they would volunteer and help people, formerly incarcerated students, part of their program, register for classes. And when I saw that, I was like, what? There's people like me out there, not having that representation. So syncing up with like JTC, Emergent Works, Project Rebound gave me a sense of belonging, a sense that I saw other people doing, completing getting their degrees. And, I came, during that like journey, I ran into someone that I was incarcerated with, and she was just graduating from the same school I just was transferring into. So I was like, oh, if Lily can do it, I can do it, right? So having that space helps you become like, own your story and not be ashamed of it. Because before, if you would ask me about why I went to prison, what happened, I would like bawl and tear. Now you can ask me what I went to prison for, and I'll tell you, but that's not who I am, right? That was, I made a mistake, but that's not who I am now. So having those spaces and having community and having mentors and getting that support is just like helps you succeed in life and anything you put your mind to, right? So I'm so super grateful. And, that's why I see other people going, oh, I'm going to go to grad school. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go to grad school too. So, it's a wonderful, like, community finding that space.
Thank you. This one's for Austin. We've heard from a lot of large companies today, right? You mentioned that you lead a company of around 80 employees. And I think a lot of companies kind of struggle at the smaller or mid-size as to how do we engage in this topic, right? Or they say, maybe we don't have the ability to hire somebody right now. And we actually look at this as Just Through Code as kind of a life cycle, right? Of how do we get people to that point of hiring, and also what types of other support. So you mentioned the personal support that you've offered in terms of educating other people, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit about kind of how your company has engaged, how you're thinking about that as an executive leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does definitely connect to what I went through personally here at Columbia. The final project for the Immersive Block Week was a paper about like what you are going to do, what you're going to take back to your company, and put into action. And I think the most important thing, the first step is just to start talking about it. And we accomplished that. We had actually Eaton and a JTC alumni come and speak on a sort of like brown bag lunch with our staff, and that just got people talking and thinking about the concept. I think you'll find in most organizations, certainly most tech organizations and any business school, you'll find lots of people who are ready to be activated. If you just sort of say like, this is something that we care about, this is something that's important to us, then they'll raise their hands and say like, what about this? What about that? Our ultimate goal, which we have not yet reached, is to create apprenticeships for JTC students. But between here and there, for one thing, we cycle through workstation quality Apple laptops at a pretty rapid clip. And we used to eBay them, which was a complete pain for our operations team. Now we send them to JTC, and they hand them out to students that need them. Simple thing, small thing, and it's a win-win for us and for them. We've had a couple folks go through the technical mentorship side of JTC with more hopefully along the way, and we've adopted or are in the process of adopting various pieces of technology that the JT. We're a software development firm at our core, so this is again relatively easy for us. The key there too is like this isn't we have to address this as work, right? This is a project for our team that we're doing like we would do for any of our clients. And that's, I think, what makes it successful, is that if you engage with this at the level of like, this is work, this is part of our jobs like anything else, we're doing it because it's important to us both personally and as a business, then people will say, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me too.
Thank you. Taylor, I know we've talked a lot about, and also we at Justice Through Code talk a lot about kind of what's the actual impact of the work that we're doing, right? Not just on the individuals, and not really just to look at this as kind of a social impact project, but how does this inform the way that you approach your work? How has this benefited your colleagues that have participated in the mentorship program, and just Amazon Web Services as a whole, as a partner for ours on the technical mentorship program?
There's a lot of ways it impacted me. So first, I realized I needed to go through more training around bias and unconscious bias, and to check my own biases and to kind of walk through that as I interact with my mentees. I learned that lesson, not in a hard way, but I learned it real quickly, that I was making assumptions about people that I shouldn't have been making. And so a little bit of introspection on how I would approach my work and my work with my mentees. Beyond that, working with others, my coworkers seeing my mentorship opened them to ask questions. What is this program? How can we get engaged? How can we help? And it was really being that gatekeeper to understanding and being able to answer questions, to talk about what my mentees are working on, to show them the GitHubs that my mentee had done. They're like, they built this? They did data visualizations in pandas? They absolutely did. I had to go learn pandas, and that was hard. I had to start learning things again to keep up with my mentees. That was a good lesson. Beyond that, as we started to look at how do we scale this and gather more mentees and help more people, and what's the impact going to be, we're very data-driven as an organization. It's real hard to quantify that. So I focused on the individual. What is this individual doing? Are they getting advanced? Both my mentees have now been promoted, so one from an intern to a full-time employee, and one from a full-time employee to the next level at Amazon. And I see this, and I see them going through it, and I'm still their mentor. I still work with them. I'm more their friend now, where we can talk about this stuff. And so for me, it's a lifelong impact. It's phone calls on Sunday after I leave brunch. Hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay with that reduction in force? Do you still have a job? Yes, I made that. It's been transformative.
Yeah. And for Makita and Maria, we've heard a lot about numbers today, right? Definitely from the business side of things, we want to focus, as Tyler said, right on the quantifiable aspect. But kind of again centering this conversation and the human impact. What would you want employers to know about kind of why they should engage in second chance hiring?
I would say I would want employers to know that second chance hiring is not just for the individual, it's for everyone, right? When someone is released from prison and they don't have any opportunity, then what? Like affording a second chance to someone is making the community better. And number one, and number two, you're not just giving a chance to anybody. You're giving a chance to someone who's really, really working hard for this. Like, this is not a handout, it's not a freebie. And even as I say, I didn't imagine myself going to jail. I've been around in my community, so many people went to jail. It was a regular thing, and all of us have like some of commonalities, right? Which is trauma. My father was murdered when I was 7 years old. My mother came here from Jamaica. She didn't have a job. My house was shot up. Like, it was so many things that happened to me in life that put me in a position of fear, that put me in a position of low self-esteem, and made me feel that I had to protect myself and do certain things. But there are people who had worse experiences than me. And when you come home, what you do with yourself is a prime example of where you're going and what you want out of life. For me to become a software engineer, I had to work really, really hard. And there were folk that had to work harder than me, who did not have a background like me, who did not have an experience like me. So with all of that dedication, with all of that saying, I want something new for me, for them to look for a chance and not be able to get it is not right. It's not right. It's not fair. It doesn't help anyone. And it also makes the community unsafe, if you ask me, right? Because we know what crime comes from, right? Lack of resources, boredom, a bunch of different things, right? If you have no opportunity, You know, you put yourself in a position to feel like the world is against you. And we don't want that. We want to feel that everyone means something in our society, and especially folk who are dedicated to changing their lives. And when from my change, so many lives have changed. And that can happen for so many other folk who are given a second chance to do something with themselves, to be an example in their community, to make someone feel that they can become a pilot or a software engineer or a doctor or go to Columbia University. The impact that that have is immeasurable. And that's why I think second chances should be given.
So, like Makita mentioned, you know, giving an opportunity to someone with a criminal background, you'll be providing like sustainable employment, right? And not only that, you do like providing that does lower the recidivism rate. Sorry, I murdered it. But like you'll be helping lower that, right? And also by providing this, like, yeah, I was a high school dropout, drug addict. You know, I got my associates in prison, and you know, now I can show my nephews like you don't have to go that route. You can actually become something, right? My nephew actually transferred into the same university I graduated from this year, and he's like, oh, you know, like Tia, you know, you turned your life around. Like I'm gonna be like you. So he's going into 3D game animation. Like so, you know, just seeing that and hearing that from them when before they're just like everyone's like, oh, you're not gonna do anything with your life, right? So giving that opportunity, letting us have representation in our community is also big. Because every time I go into Homeboys, everyone thinks I'm a teacher or just someone, you know, staff. And then when I'm like, oh, I'm formerly incarcerated, everyone starts paying attention. Then they start seeing themselves where I'm at. And that's, you know, if my manager at Disney, my first manager, if he didn't give me that opportunity for my internship, you know, I was getting rejected left and right. But he saw the potential. And you know, now I'm a full-time employee there. I'm part of the Latinx Berg and outreach. I'm making, you know, events for corporate connections for my campus for other students to come. And you know, and I'm still working on getting that internship opportunity for Project Rebound for someone that's formerly incarcerated with pursuing a computer science degree, right? So we're, you know, you give an opportunity to someone like us, we're gonna excel, right? How I hustled in there, I'm hustling out here. So yeah, that's.
Thank you. This is something I have not shared with Maria before, but I think one of the greatest pleasures of doing this work is seeing the success of people like Makita, Maria, being able to sit on the stage. We're in an Ivy League business school, right? The fact that we're able to have this discussion with these other speakers today is unbelievable, life-changing, right? Watching the pictures that you posted with your nephews at Disney World after getting your job, right? Like that is why we're here today. That is why you make these commitments. Love to just hear from the group. If there's one thing that the audience can take away from today, what would it be, Austin?
Yeah, we heard that the story at JPMorgan started with Jamie Dimon, and I just want to emphasize that while this is all about the business case for second chance employment, it has, you know, most places starts with the personal case and or human connection. And I just want you to know you can be the human connection for your organization. You can go back and say, this is important to me. This should be important to us, and I want to take some action here, and then start the journey.
Something that, so I'm going to give an example. During my internship, the CIO from my company, you know, extended to all the interns to do a one-on-one. And I reached out. And she told me that if, like, before meeting me, she wouldn't have hired someone with a criminal background. But after and seeing like how I turned my life around, you know, she gave me the green light to actually open up a internship program. So, you know, it's just giving that opportunity, giving a chance to someone is something like, please, and like I don't want to beg, but it's like, it's just, you know, you give her saying that just gave me so much self-worth, and that's how it ended.
I'd say for the influencers, hiring managers, and directors in the room, we are running out of senior technology talent, period. This is a pipeline of people that have a lot of ambition, that are willing to go the extra mile, to learn. The aptitude is through the charts. And for me, this is where we can make technology sustainable again, from a hiring perspective. We are just not keeping up. We can't keep paying people more. It's not going to work. The economics aren't there. We have to invest in early career and really invest in them, not just hire them. This is a 1.5-year investment. It's mentorship. It's making sure they're successful. It's all of those things. That's what we as leaders need to do or start to influence.
I say, give someone a second chance. It's for them, it's for you, it's for everyone. And if you can't give someone a second chance, if you can't get your employers to hire someone who has been justice impacted, join forces with other businesses, organizations who are mission partners, who want to see this happen. I work for Checkers, and Checker is a fair chance company, and I'm so proud to be a part of Checkers because of that. Like, I sought Checkers because I wanted to be aligned with someone who believes in what I believe in. And as a Checker employee, I feel good because I don't feel like I'm hiding behind anything. I can say, yes, I did time. Yes, I feel this way. Yes, I don't know something, right? And they understand because they know where I came from, right? And giving someone a second chance and being a part of an organization that does that will also do what Checkers does for me. And I say, get involved in any way that you can. Make donations to organizations who are doing this work, Justice Through Code, for example. Like, you know, we need all the support that we can get to see this through. And somebody's family depends on this. My family depends on this. Like, when I see my daughter now, she knows that she has the potential to be somebody. And my absence made her feel that she didn't have that potential. My prison sentence may have affected my daughter, who never committed a crime, more than it even affected me. You know, but now she knows. Look at my mom. She went through this. She served a 9.5-year sentence, and she came home, and she was able to become something. And even when I felt like I didn't have a mom and everything was against me, and even though my life is not exactly where it is today, her life is not even where my life is today, she knows that she can do it. She can rise above her situation and become somebody from the opportunity that someone said, someone like Makita deserves. So you be that someone too. Thank you.
All right. And now we have the time for maybe 2 or 3 questions for anybody in the panel. Lana, if you could come grab the mic to, oh, actually, you're good. Yeah.
Pretty loud, so I don't know if I need it. All right. Perfect. Thank you to everyone being up here. I personally have a father who experienced some of these same issues that you've gone through. Can you talk a little bit to the crowd about what you've done to bring the same energy to every interview, right? You talk about people giving you a chance, but it seemed like you were giving them a chance to get into their environment and show them the change that you can make. Were there any things that you use to help build you up or bring that same energy to every interview and not shut down and go to your corner and stay there? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Okay. So my sister told me the exact same thing. That she's a senior software engineer for a gaming company. So when I was interviewing for my internship and getting rejected a lot, she came up to me and she's like, "You're strong." She's like, "Because after the first interviews, I would have given up." And I'm like, I'm learning, and I'm going to be better for the next interview. And rejection after rejection. And I knew the company that I was going to get hired with was going to see that, because all my jobs were part of Project Rebound, and that's an organization that offers support for formerly incarcerated students pursuing a degree. And so I just kept showing up. I made that commitment, showing up, and eventually, I interviewed with Disney. And I didn't think they were going to hire me because Disney, but they gave me the opportunity, and me practicing and interviewing with all these other companies. I knew my what is it, that speech, my intro speech, so I had it memorized, and it was just like flowing. The answers they were asking me, the questions they were asking me were the same, similar to the other ones. So I already had a little outline. And so yeah, that's the energy. You just have to keep going. I'm like, people are going to say no, but that's the worst they can do. Just say no.
My name is Douglas Reed. Actually, I'm a retired federal correction officer. One of the things I want to ask the panel is, one of the things that I had to learn was empathy, especially understanding a second chance. What do you think is most important based on your transition for people involved in law enforcement or just the community to let us know how to show the empathy and respect for each other?
I would say, as far as empathy is concerned, a lot of the times when you are looking at yourself, so let me give you an example. I had a job one time. I was working at the Department of Buildings as a legal assistant, and I remember when I first got to the job, I had like such great customer service skills, I gotta tell you, right? And I used to work at Geico, and they had like a really intense customer service training. And I remember when I got to the city agency, right? I was so like, thank you for holding. Like just being so friendly and so nice. And I remember the borough manager came to me and she said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Why are you so nice? And why are you no, you need to be more serious. You need to be more aggressive." And I'm just like, okay, didn't think I should have that type of attitude here. But as many of you know, in a lot of city agencies, there is an attitude, right? There is a way that people conduct themselves that doesn't seem very friendly or very, customer service driven. And at some point, I started to adopt those ways, right? I started to adopt those ways, and people would come into the office. I'm like, "Wait a minute, step out, step back." And this guy came to me. He says, "Listen, why are you behaving like this? Like, what if you had to come here and do this job? Would you want someone to treat you like that?" And I thought about it, and I'm just like, no, I would not. And I did not. And now I'm becoming something that I never was, to fit in or to suit a culture, an existing culture that was not positive, right? And I say the same thing when you think about empathy. Think about yourself. Think about what you would want. Think about you in your human condition and form, making a mistake and having to go through this, right? Because just like I told you before, I lived in poverty. I lived in a criminal area. I did not think I was going to go to prison, but I did, right? But if I had an attitude as a correction officer, if I ever became one, that I would never go to prison. I don't care. I lived in this neighborhood. And then I treat people like they're not worthy, or like I could never make a mistake. Like, think of how different things would be, right? You have to look at it like you can make a mistake. You can be in the same shoes that someone else is in, and how would you want to be treated? How would you want your mom treated? How would you want your son treated? How would you want your daughter treated? How would you want the people you love treated when they make a mistake? And that's what I do to develop empathy when I feel it's lacking.
Can I add something? So the last thing the CEO from the prison, like I thought she was cool. She was my boss for like 3 years. And the last thing she told me was, "You'll be back in a year." that I wasn't going to amount to, so that always stung because oh my, sorry. That stung. And even when I was like applying to school and stuff like that, my parole officers were just like, what are you wasting your time for? So I would ask like COs, parole officers, if I'm thinking, of going back to school or pursuing something, encourage that individual. Because, just encourage them, sorry.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I want to ask something right now is for us all to stand up and give this incredible panel a round of applause.